Wow.
Okay, I think we're ready to go. We're in public meeting right now, and the last item we've got to do is the annual report. So firstly, we need to go through the changes that have been made since the committee last reviewed, and then we need to go through the audit process, whether we're ready for verbal clearance and the rep letter. Tracy, did you want to go through the amendments to the accounts, or shall we go through where we're at with the audit first?
Let me just go through where we're at with the audit first, if I may. So as you know, we've been working really hard in the last few months with Audit New Zealand to get this audit across the line. There is a bit of a process which I'll get Clarence and Nordea to walk you through as far as their reviews that they do on site with us. It then goes to their team and their technical team in Wellington. So what we're actually waiting for at the moment is clearance from their technical team on a couple of issues that we have with our consolidated results. So from a formality perspective, we need them to sign off and give us clearance before this committee is then capable or able to, to recommend through to council, which, as everyone knows, council is tomorrow. So a little bit of a timing thing on that. So what we're proposing to do today, because we still don't have clearance. Okay, so sorry, we have been trying to delay obviously this today to try and get clearance out of Wellington. So what we're proposing is there's a new resolution as part of this report that recommends this committee gives Kieran, Bruce and Maxine authority to recommend on behalf of this committee to council tomorrow. So any reviews and anything that comes out between now and when that final clearance happens. And then that recommendation, and Kieran will be here tomorrow to do that recommendation from this committee through to council formally at tomorrow's council meeting. And again, the timing of that depends on when the timing of the clearance comes through. So has anyone got any questions on the formality and the process of that?
Yeah, can I just, before we open it to questions, can I just clarify a couple of things in that process? So firstly, I outlined to the committee that there was an external confirmation on the roading measure to come through. Has that come through? It has. Okay, so the only thing we're waiting for is clearance from your technical team in Wellington. Okay, and the other thing I just wanted to clarify is, what if we don't get verbal audit clearance in time for tomorrow's council meeting? What then? What's plan B?
So the way we've written the resolution is that it's obviously from this committee to council, that will still go ahead. The next thing will be an extraordinary council meeting as an option, which we could get next week. Otherwise, if we can't do that, it will have to be in February the 2nd, I think, is the first council meeting in the new year, and we'll have to wait for that. If that happens, if we can't get it pushed through and received from council, there is an issue with obviously breaching what we need to do of the Office of the Auditor General and the report that they then give and through to Parliament.
Yeah, so that would mean if council isn't able to sign off by the 31st of December, that is actually a breach of the timelines in the Act. And the consequence of that is that the Auditor General will be putting us on the naughty list. But also your team would be pretty deflated going into Christmas too, no doubt.
Yeah. And there's that.
Okay, and so the resolution, just the resolution that's being proposed, that allows for effectively that plan B. It doesn't need to be tomorrow's council. It could be a council prior to Christmas or a council after Christmas.
Correct.
Yes. Okay, Bruce.
Sorry, I didn't mean to speak over you, Kieran. The one other point that we discussed last night was technically the accounts remain open until they are adopted. So as we've heard this morning with the bill, full enactment, more issues could come up. So in effect, we have to hold open until the 2nd of February.
Yeah, good point. Thank you for reminding us. Yes, that until the audit is signed off, we need to be aware of any subsequent events that need to be either disclosed in the accounts, or that need to be disclosed in the accounts. So that means, it could mean reopening the audit and changing the accounts. So the longer they're held open, the higher that risk.
Correct.
Not ideal. Okay, so the plan is to work to sign them off tomorrow, if at all possible. If they can't be signed off tomorrow, the next plan is to try and get an extraordinary council meeting prior to Christmas, which is going to be easier said than done, given we need 8 in person, and a lot of councillors will be on holiday at that stage. And then if that extraordinary pre-Christmas isn't available, then we would go to post-Christmas.
An extraordinary, I think we should just scrub off the list, because I cannot see any way you'll make it work. People have already indicated their leave. I'll never get that many people around the table. Like to say I could, but I think that's flying against the wind, really. So my preference is to, even if tomorrow takes a bit longer, so it takes a bit longer, and if we have to provide some food because it takes a bit longer, so what? We get the work done in one day. So what's the confidence that the technical data will be signed off and we can get it away tomorrow? Or are we going to still be waiting tomorrow and waiting and waiting?
So
We are still going to be waiting.
so
How long do you think we're going to wait? Sorry, just directing a question behind you, Tracy.
yes, please come forward, Clarence. So just firstly to clarify, we have spoken about having some flexibility in tomorrow's agenda to put this item further and later in the afternoon. It's originally up in the morning, but we could change it to the afternoon to allow just a bit of extra time. So with that in mind, Clarence, what's your feel for whether we're going to be able to meet that deadline?
So my confidence levels are extremely high.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that we will be in a position to sign off. I just got a text to say that the reconciliation has been done. They're happy with the numbers. So I think the final clearance is imminent.
Yeah.
But I can't give clearance until I actually have that in my hand. So
Right.
I have to again apologise for putting the committee in this position.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm pretty confident that we will be in a position tomorrow.
Okay. Okay, thank you. So theoretically, if we spend the next 10 minutes going through the annual report, you might get that text and we'll be all sweet. We'll see how we go. Yeah. And so I do want to spend some time going through the changes since the last report, and also just going through the representation letter, which has changed since what was originally in the pack, so we need to be all clear on that. But before we move to that, are there any questions on the audit process? And Clarence, is there anything further you'd like to add?
Yes, thank you. I'd really like to just thank David, Tracy, and the whole finance team, and also the non-financial team at Council. This is no reflection on how they worked with us. It is purely, we're under a lot of pressure, and we spoke about it, and it's no reflection on the finance team. We've made some really late requests for changes, which was done. And I think when you see what's on the letter of rep, it's basically 2 very small things that was just not worthwhile making all the changes for. And again, it was because of the timing of raising those issues. So I just wanted to acknowledge that, to say thanks to the finance team, and I can say understanding, although it's, the frustration is high, and I accept that.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Clarence. I'd like to thank you for front-footing this issue yesterday and offering to meet with me yesterday so that we could, have that robust discussion around, how we might make it better. So there's no point going over that again today. Our focus today is to get the audit clearance and to get the annual report signed off prior to Christmas, so we can all go away and have a very restful break with this off our shoulders, and I'm sure that's exactly what you want to, Clarence. Yeah. Okay, so look, if we go to item Item 10 and the annual report, I just need to find,
It'll be under late attachment.
yes, can somebody give me a, 157, thank you very much. So that's the, oh, I've gone to 15, 115.
Yeah. So what this is a table of late changes. So when we brought this to the workshop last couple of weeks ago, so what this is basically tabling the changes that we made between that workshop and now. So it is a combination of suggestions that were made by this committee at that workshop itself. Other things that we have obviously picked up ourselves as staff, and then all of the late requests that have come through from Audit New Zealand for their changes as well. So all of that combined is what's in this table. Some of it's been, every time we make a change, obviously in the document, it has to go back to the designer and get changed in the design document, hence the reason why we're putting it on the side to show what we did about it and if we've actually added it to the design document. Hence the reason why poor Amy had to send yet again another update last night with some more changes that we got through yesterday. So hopefully in those late attachments, that's all the latest from the information that we have as at yesterday afternoon.
Okay, so are there any questions about the changes that have been made to the accounts? No? My only question is, note 15, so page 175, so this is on the second page of the amendments. I couldn't see any change there on the accounts.
Oh, no, that was just the committee wanted to explain what was in the service increases. So that was just some increases in that particular, why it had gone up from one year to another. That was the question that was asked.
Oh, okay.
And what
So
that
it's
was,
just
it was
an
related to the emergency, civil defence emergency and some extra costs that we had related to COVID that was included in that particular line. So that was just the question that the committee had asked around that one.
Okay, great. And I think it's worthwhile just highlighting that that subsequent event note has changed to include not only the change in OCR but also the movement and, the subsequent movement in interest rate swaps. And I did just have a query on page 312, the derivative. So that derivative financial instruments, I wasn't expecting that figure to change. What was that to do with?
Sorry, what page were you on?
3112.
Derivative financial instruments.
So I'm thinking that's changed from the last accounts. That was 3683 and is now 7431.
Okay. I will take that offline and find out for you. Oh, up the top, the current,
Non-current assets.
non-current assets.
Yeah, derivative financial instruments. Sorry, I should have asked you about this this morning. It just
No, that's
completely
okay.
slipped my mind.
I can find out because I actually have a funny feeling we just swapped it between current and non-current, didn't we? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
so
I think
that-
we just had to
yes.
do between the two. Because was that the the balance funds, the MEF funds? Sorry, yes, I do know the answer to that. So that was our MEF fund, so our municipal endowment fund, and the way we had classified the shares and what we've got that invested in. We had classified it as current, and Audit wanted us to classify it as non-current. So it's just a swap between the two.
Okay,
Yeah.
right. That makes more sense, and that answers my next question. So that's good. So, right, if there aren't any further questions on the financial statements in the annual report, let's move to the letter of representation. And so that's at the very back of the pack, and the change from that which was already included in the pack, my understanding is the only change is the table of the unadjusted amendments.
Yeah, that's right. So in Appendix 1, you'll see that there's two uncorrected, what they're calling uncorrected misstatements now in this letter of representation. So one of them, 478. So the first one is to do with SaaS, so software as a service. So as you know, that was a change in our accounting policy and change to the standard during this year. We had made those adjustments for this year, but we hadn't made any adjustments in the prior period as we didn't think it was material. And the technical team have disagreed with that and have made this as an audit point. Under normal circumstances, I would have readjusted this ourselves through the accounts, but I only found out about it a week ago. And this means changing pretty much most notes. And it was a lot of work for the team. So I made a decision that it was too much work for something that we didn't think was material enough, and I'm happy for it to be on the letter of representation.
Okay, and the building consent?
Yes, so that was when they do their sampling of the documentation, they found one error in the sample that they extracted. It was a incorrect date. Yeah. Yeah, so it was 1 out of 36, and it's clearly evidence someone's just typed the date wrong. But that's fine. We think that's acceptable.
Immaterial.
Yeah.
Okay. And can I just confirm the rest of the contents of the representation letter, Clarence, that's standard? Yeah. Okay, thank you.
It is.
Right.
We have got on page 4 of the letter, it's page 475, the paragraph just above the representations about provision, that we're recognising that the subsidiaries audits have not yet been completed. That's non-standard. But probably was then we considered it pre the elections, but I just wondered whether it was worthwhile just checking off the full state, because we are in effect still got unaudited information in the group accounts, correct?
Yes.
Yes, so I just want to reflect, because I think it's also part of the technical issue, that the representation's important, that we are dealing still with issues at the subsidiary level which are unaudited. And we could be subject to, some change future down the track when audits get done. So it's be rude, it's non-standard, but
Yeah, okay. And so the management representation supporting this, so this is a letter from Mayor Paula and the Chief Executive to Audit New Zealand, but this is supported by, so the representations that yourself and Lance make are supported by representations from management, which were provided at the last committee meeting. There's nothing substantially that has changed in the rep letter, so I don't think we need an updated representation from management. So if we are happy with to recommend this letter through, we'll include that in the recommendation. Are there any questions or concerns with the rep letter? No? Right. So I think we're ready to go to the resolution to recommend the annual report through to council and recommend the signing of the letter of representation by Mayor Paula and by Lance, but that recommendation would be subject to myself, Bruce, and Councillor Maxine as Chair of the Finance Committee. Just reviewing any changes that may result from the final audit procedures, and we're hoping that that will come through ready for recommendation to the council tomorrow, but if not, it'll be the next council meeting. So did you want to right, so we've got the motion up there, so that the committee receives the report, recommends subject to final approval from the chair, deputy chair of the committee, and Councillor Van Olsen as chair of Finance and Monitoring Committee, that the council adopts the annual report and the summary of the annual report, and approves the letter of representation to Audit New Zealand to be signed by the Chief Executive and the Mayor on behalf of the Council. Are we all happy with that resolution? Yes? Okay. Thanks. I'll move. Let's just double check that we haven't got a text through yet, parents.
After the latest fix, the numbers that I didn't reconcile can reconcile now.
Yeah.
I think that is in process now, just to get a formal letter to us.
Okay, yeah.
Positive.
So it's looking
24
positive
hours,
for
Mayor Paula,
tomorrow.
it's 24 hours to go.
Okay. It's looking positive to leave it on at the beginning of the agenda for tomorrow.
It's a long time in this world.
Okay, so if we're all happy with that resolution, I'll move it. Can I have a seconder, please? Go, Moko. Thank you.
Don't support anything else.
You live on the edge.
That's gonna be a very big high profile one, doesn't it?
Okay, all of those in favour? Against? Carried. Right, so I think that's all we've got to do for our meeting, except for a closing karakia. There were no other items to be covered. I've done everything. Okay, I'll close us with actually the same karakia. Po huhiri, po rarama, po o te whakaro, po o te tangata, po o te araha, te po I here nei I a tātou, Māori ora ki a tātou, homie, hui, tākie. We did it.